Hello, welcome to another episode of Strain and Blend Partners video podcast. My name is Chidinma Anuforo. I am an associate with the private equity, capital markets, and the mergers and acquisition practice group, and also your host for today. With me is Kolajo and Onasoga. Kolajo is an associate with the energy, finance, and infrastructure practice group here at Strain and Blend Partners. As always, our goal for the video podcast is to give a summary analysis of the business and regulatory landscape. And in today's episode, we intend to deep dive into the concept of energy transition and the financing options. So stay tuned as we explore the dynamics of the Nigerian energy landscape. So to kick things off, Kolajo, my first question, what is the concept of energy transition and how is it relevant to Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much, Chidinma, for that question. Energy transition is the global shift from a carbon-intensive energy source to a more cleaner and sustainable energy source like gas, hydropower, wind, solar, and the likes. Energy transition is relevant to Nigeria because Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in Africa. Its population accounts for over 200 million persons, right? And also, energy transition is relevant to Nigeria because Nigeria's energy landscape is heavily reliant on fossil fuel, right? The oil and gas accounts for about 90% of its energy mix. Energy transition is also relevant because Nigeria has an abundance of renewable energy sources. For example, Nigeria boasts itself as the largest natural gas reserve, right? It has about 200 trillion cubic feet of proven reserve. We have states in Nigeria that experience a lot of solar radiation, which makes our region, our country, very good for the development of solar energy. Also, statistics shows that only about 40% of Nigerians have access to a stable and quality electricity. So energy transition would first off enable Nigeria to reduce its emission, which results in environmental and climate change pollution, and also provide a quality and sustainable electricity to Nigerians across.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned all of that. You hinted at some motivating factors. And so that leads me to my next question. What are the key drivers to Nigeria's energy transition journey?
All right, so the first key driver is economic diversification, right? So let's paint a picture of Nigeria's economy as a car with just one full tank, and the full tank in this instance is oil. Right. So what happens in this instance is that Nigeria's economy becomes very susceptible to the fluctuation in prices and the global oil demand. Right. So also paints another picture of Nigeria's economy as a car still, but this time with different fuel tanks, and these fuel tanks are powered by various sectors, right, across the economy. What happens in this instance is that Nigeria now basically creates or have a more resilient and adaptable economy, which is not reliant on the volatile oil market.
Yeah, so that would mean that where the oil markets, where there's instability with oil prices or there's crisis that affects oil prices, Nigeria can now resort to using alternative renewable energy like wind and gas, etc.
Yeah, that's also part of it, right? Another key driver would be environmental concerns. Right, so Nigeria grapples with a lot of environmental concern. I already made mention at the beginning that we are heavily dependent on fossil fuel, and this fossil fuel basically results in environmental concerns, climate change, and not just even environmental concerns, but also health concern. So this is a major key driver. Another key driver would be Nigerians' abundance of renewable energy sources, right? So Nigeria has an abundance of renewable energy sources. For example, if you go to northern Nigeria, you realize that states like Jigawa, Katsina, Sokoto, they experience about 6.5 kilowatts of solar radiation per day, which makes that region very good for the development of solar energy as a renewable energy source, right? Also, we have a lot of dams that has the potential for hydropower as a renewable energy source, like the Shiroro Dam, the Jeba Dam, the Niger River, and the likes. Going to the coastline part of Nigeria, we have in Akwa Ibom State, in Cross River State, in Bayelsa State, you realize that they experience a lot of wind speed, right? Which makes that environment very good for the development of wind energy. So aside the states that I've mentioned, you realize that there are also other states that have like a lot of potential for the development of different renewable energy sources. And if Nigeria can utilize these untapped resources that we have, it's going to put us at the forefront of renewable energy development across the world.
So there was a recent report by the IFC and the IEA that as a result of the rising energy demand in emerging countries like Nigeria, there needs to be an annual investment of $2.8 trillion up until 2030. And also another motivating factor that they hinted was international commitments that Nigeria had. Example, the Paris Agreement. So that takes us to a very next question, right? All of these key drivers are very ambitious. And so the next question would be, what, in your opinion, are the financing options available to stakeholders in order to finance Nigeria's energy transition journey?
All right. So in order to finance this renewable energy project that we are talking about, the first way of financing it is by commercial and syndicated loans. What this means is that the renewable energy producer can go to a financial institution and ask for funds in order to finance this renewable energy project. However, in the past, report has shown that these financial institutions were hesitant to give funds to development of renewable energy in Africa because of the perceived ROI. However, in recent times, the reverse has been the case. We've seen the African Finance Development Bank. We've seen that they are sponsoring a lot of renewable energy projects, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. Right? World Bank is also doing the same. We've seen that IFC, they are bringing a lot of initiatives towards funding of renewable energy projects. So yeah, commercial and syndicated loans is a good financing option. Right. Aside that, we have incentivizing financing scheme for clean energy to attract investors. Right. So there are a lot of financing schemes that we have that have been adopted by various countries across Africa, not just even across Africa, across the world. Another financing option that we have is green bonds. Right. Green bond is one of the most popular options for financing renewable energy projects or environmental sustainable projects in Nigeria and across Africa. Right. So what happens here is that the government issue out bonds for environmental and sustainable projects.
Right. So might I also add that private equity firms and VC firms as well, they invest in companies and startups respectively that in their operations they have products that are sustainable, and also renewable energy. The next question would then be, you've mentioned the financing options, which brings up a lot of opportunities in that sector. But we know with opportunities come challenges.
Definitely.
And so my question would be, in your opinion, what are the challenges you think that are hindering Nigeria's energy transition?
All right. So the first challenge that I would say is high upfront cost. So like every project in Nigeria, renewable energy projects requires a substantial initial investment, which can deter the renewable energy developer. So another challenge that we face also is our lack of infrastructure, right? So Nigeria's underdeveloped power grid poses a lot of challenges to the development of renewable energy projects or projects in Nigeria. Right? For example, in September 2023, we recall that the Nigeria power grid collapsed twice in 6 hours. Right. So also report shows that in 12 years, Nigeria's power grid has experienced system and partial failure 222 times.
Really?
Right. So this shows that our power grid, our power grid basically have a lot of work to be done on it. Right. Another challenge would be licenses and permits. So you know how things work in Nigeria, that if you want to get anything, you need licenses, permits, approvals, and the like. So getting these licenses, permits, and approvals can be time consuming, and it can also deter the developers and even the investors.
Right. So essentially everything that you've mentioned, the government has to simplify permitting processes in order to accelerate project development. And then they also have to create regulations that enable businesses in this sector to thrive as well.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Another thing that I believe that the government can do is collaborate with these private stakeholders. Right. They should sit down and let the private, because I mean, if we're being honest, the private stakeholders, they are best in doing these businesses, they're best in developing these things. So they should sit down and liaise with private stakeholders, let the private stakeholders tell the government what they can do to create a better regulation to enhance this development of this renewable energy project. Also, the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan, if you look at it, you realize that they make mention of adopting the carbon pricing and the carbon credit framework in order to achieve a net zero emission.
So thank you so much for such an elaborate explanation of Nigeria's energy transition journey.
Thank you for having me, Chidinma.
So we've come to the end of today's episode. And here at Stren & Blanc Partners, we're always willing to support stakeholders through the energy transition journey and also provide more insights. Until next time, bye.